typical days because I don't work in a restaurant per se. So every day is definitely not the same. So like if you ever, I used to work in restaurants. So when you do that, you usually clock in, you get your stuff ready for your station, you do your prep for the day, you go into service. Because we do kind of everything. We have an event center. So we do huge events. We'll do weddings for 400 or 500 people. We'll do TEDx talks, if you've heard of those.
Yeah.
So we'll have 4,000 people for that. So it could be anything from, a very small party for 10 people. I make all the backstage for the artists. So like Aretha Franklin and the Backstreet Boys, Boyz II Men. And so any of those like artists that come in here, we do the food for them as well. That it is different every day. It is definitely not a desk job. So it is really good for people who are not good at sitting still.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of energy. It is a lot of work. We have really long hours some days. There's some days I work 16, 17 hours a day. So it can get kind of crazy. But I do like that not every day is the same. And then there's all kinds of new stuff to do. And because I work at the Kauffman Center, they let me have a lot of creativity. I'm completely in charge of the menus. So we talk to clients about what they want, but I get to make up whatever I want. I went to, my first degree is in music. I got a degree at the conservatory at UMKC for voice. And when I was getting done, I was like, how am I going to make a living? For me personally, it wasn't a realistic lifestyle for my personality to try and make money like that. And so I thought of what I really like to do the most. And I started decorating cakes when I was 16. So I was like, that is something I love to do. So I up and moved to California and went to culinary school. So I had no idea what I was doing. I'd never worked in a professional kitchen. And I up and went to culinary school and got myself into it, which I'm lucky it worked out because some people it's just not the right life for them because it's hard. But luckily it worked really well for me. I've been doing it for 20 years. So I think it's not even with food. It's more kind of the opportunities you can get, travel and meeting new people. I've got to meet some famous chefs. When I lived in California, I worked for Wolfgang Puck, so I got to work for him. I met some celebrities out there when I was living in LA. Just doing parties like Clint Eastwood and that kind of thing. But I think the bigger thing is more the people and learning how to manage people and how to kind of get them motivated and get them to learn because it's constantly learning. And it is a hard work environment. So getting those right kind of people in there and making sure that they're supported, that's the biggest thing I think you learn. Yeah, I was the regional chef before. So I covered 57 accounts. So I covered California, Missouri, Kansas, Texas, Alabama, Colorado. So I was all over the place. So I traveled probably half the year. So it depends on the job. There's all kinds of opportunities. So besides even being a chef, you can be a food writer. You can be a publicist. You can be somebody who stages food for magazines or articles. Be a test kitchen person who makes recipes for websites or celebrity chefs and just work on the recipes themselves or even corporations. Or be a corporate chef, which is what I was for a little bit. And I didn't realize that job even existed. So what I did was I would go and open accounts. And these are places that have cafes and businesses. So I would go and set them up and I would train the managers and write their recipes and open their accounts. So I'd travel all over the country doing that. People, again, who definitely like to keep moving. It's good for people who are hyper organized because you have to be, but you have to not be afraid of hard work.
Right.
It's physical hard work. If you have to be able to lift and push and stand for a long time. But I think people who don't want to necessarily sit around because your environment's always changing, day-to-day changes like what you're doing. So it's really good for people who have a lot of energy, I have that. So, and then also for people, like I said, that don't want to have the same day-to-day or who don't necessarily want a desk job because it's definitely not sitting around a lot. You learn to get a thicker skin because I think part of being a chef is taking a lot of pride in what you're putting out there. So being a perfectionist is actually a really good thing here. So because I think we all, even now, 20 years later, I still get down when I feel like I didn't do the best job I possibly could have done. But you have to be able to pick yourself up and go, okay, next time I'm going to learn from this and I'm going to do better next time on this. And I've learned something from my mistake because everybody makes mistakes. So it's how you bounce back and how you learn from those that make it better.